What is up, Breaking Bad fans? Kino here, and we're back with another Breaking Bad log. Today we look at one of the most controversial episodes of the series, Season 3, Episode 10, Fly. Now, the episode opens with some close-up views of an actual fly. It honestly makes me pretty uncomfortable. It reminds me of the butterfly episode of SpongeBob. I would always have to close my eyes at the close-ups of the butterfly because bugs freak me out. We also hear Skylar singing a lullaby to Holly in the background, but the audio is taken from the Season 2 episode Phoenix, which will also be important later. After the title, we see Walt lying awake at his condo. He's having trouble sleeping and is staring at his smoke detector's flashing light. We can clearly see that he's bothered by something. Later, he and Jesse are at the lab. After the cook, Walt notices that their yields have been lower than expected. Jesse is of course stealing the meth, but blames it on the residue left in the tanks. After he leaves, Walt notices a fly in the lab. He attempts to kill it, but fails comedically. After getting on the railing to swat it, he ends up falling and hitting the tank on his way down. The next day, Jesse arrives at work. In his car, he notices a cigarette butt with Jane's lipstick still on it. He keeps it instead of throwing it away, and the connection to Jane will again be important soon. Inside the lab, Walt has turned up the pressure in order to keep the fly trapped. He tells Jesse there has been a contamination, which Jesse assumes is some kind of disease. When Walt reveals that it's just a fly, Jesse is incredulous. He doesn't believe Walt's claim that it will ruin the batch, as he acknowledges that meth is often made with poison and other contaminants, and the druggies don't care. He wants to finish the batch before it's ruined, but Walt refuses to open the container until they deal with the fly. The two get into an argument over the situation. Eventually, the fly lands on Walt's head. Jesse offers to swat it, but really uses it as an opportunity in order to smack Walt in the head. Walt again warns him of the seriousness of the situation. He says there's no more room for mistakes with their employers, and if they do, then they're dead. Jesse then suggests they go get some air and clear their heads. Walt agrees, but simply uses it as an opportunity to lock Jesse out of the lab. Jesse then responds by turning off the power to the lab, right as Walt is about to kill the fly. They then agree to a truce, with Jesse going to buy supplies to catch the fly. After hanging up a bunch of fly paper, they then sit down for some coffee. Jesse secretly puts sleeping pills in the coffee in order to knock Walt out. While they're waiting, Jesse tells a story about his aunt who died of cancer. He says she became obsessive and unhappy when the cancer reached her brain, suggesting that Walt is going through the same thing. Walt denies it though, saying that his scans show that he's healthy. However, he does start talking about the fact that he's lived too long. Despite the fact that he now has money, Skylar learned the truth and now hates him for it. He says that he should have died before they reached this point, so that his family would actually miss him. He realizes that the perfect time to die would have been the night Jane died. This is the moment I mentioned in my review of the episode Phoenix, when Walt is listening to the baby monitor, and the lullaby that Skylar sings at the beginning of this episode is from that moment as well. Walt then recounts the story of meeting Jane's father in a bar to Jesse. He believes that the odds of meeting him that night are astronomical, and thinks that the universe is trying to tell him something. As Walt is getting delirious from the sleeping pills, Jesse sees the fly land on the ceiling. He gets on a ladder, attempting to swat him down. Walt, hanging onto the ladder, more for his support than Jesse's, tells him that he's sorry for Jane's death. Jesse, not realizing the full extent of what Walt is saying here, says that it was neither of their faults. Walt then tells him to get down and start cooking. When Jesse asks about the contaminant, Walt replies that it's all contaminated. He's referring not to the meth, of course, but his own life, which has been contaminated by his role in the drug trade. However, right at that moment, Jesse kills the fly as Walt falls asleep, too tired to notice or care anymore. After they're done, they then leave to go back home. Before he goes, Walt tells Jesse that he knows about the stolen meth, and that if he's caught, Walt can't protect him. Jesse denies having stolen it, and then Walt drives off. Back at home, Walt wakes up to the smoke alarms buzzing. He sees a fly land on the light, and we're left to wonder whether this fly is real or just another manifestation of Walt's guilt and the contamination of his life. This is by far the most unique episode of the show. Walt and Jesse are the only main characters that appear, and it takes place almost entirely within the lab. It's what's called a bottle episode of television, and the episode's unique structure was due to production costs. The season was hopelessly over budget at this point, and they needed to film a very cheap episode in order to afford to shoot the rest of the season. This has led to the episode being one of the most controversial in the series. Many fans consider it the worst episode because nothing happens, and many people skip it during rewatches. However, there are other fans who think Fly is a really good character-focused episode. Personally, I'm in the latter camp. I think we get some really great character moments in this episode, like Walt's speech about the perfect time to die. I also think it's important that we give the audience some time to pause and reflect on everything that's happened up to this point. We can really absorb the impact of all of Walt's sins once we stop moving and actually think back. Starting next episode, the action really picks up and doesn't stop until the finale, leaving less time for reflection. I also think we got some really great cinematography in this episode as well. The focus on one single location led them to come up with some really unique shots, especially for the fly. I also like this scene where Walt appears out of nowhere, like a monster in a horror movie. But I wanted to hear from other people as well, since that's just my opinion. So I asked my viewers to send me their thoughts, and I'd include them here in the video. It was actually mostly positive, with only a few people saying they hate the episode. Most thought it was a great character-focused and symbolic episode. One of my viewers related it to the Pine Barrens episode of The Sopranos. Both episodes are set primarily in one location, and are basically irrelevant to the overall plot of the show. However, Pine Barrens is considered a fan favorite for its humor, and it's interesting to see the different reactions in each of the show's communities. Another viewer pointed out that one of the reasons why people hated this episode was because Breaking Bad originally aired one episode a week. If this was your only piece of Breaking Bad content for the week, you might feel cheated because no major plot beats happen. This isn't as big a deal now that all the episodes are available to be binged watched, which may contribute to the episode's growing acceptance. And finally, it wouldn't be my viewers if I didn't have some classic shitposts in the mix. And that's pretty much everything I had to say about The Fly. Again, one of the most interesting episodes, both in terms of what happens in the episode itself and the community's reaction to it. I also want to thank all the fans who send me emails of their thoughts on the show. I'm really glad I got to include you guys in the episode itself, and I hope you guys are looking forward to more Breaking Bad logs coming soon. Gatorade me, bitch. Russell, Sean, Heart of Markness, Logan, Clean, John Reyna, Jesse Sterling, Andrew Stewart, Obs Racing Media, Daz J Kid, Conan Higgins, Sam Cedarlin, Don Lucania, Celery Man, Jenna Marie Johnson, and Brad Smith Studios.